This is the second part of the class today, and we will talk about how we study sleep. And if you ask people who are in the field of cognitive neuroscience, what would be probably the most complex area for doing studies, they probably label sleep as one of the most complex areas of cognitive neuroscience because of the complexities of running what we call a sleep lab. So it seems that running a sleep lab is quite a kind of a complex process, and there are challenges for running a sleep lab. In sleep labs, what we do, we usually record different markers and different signals from a sleeping individual. We can record sensors, kind of the recording from the EEG. We can record how muscles around the eyes are functioning. Some other muscles would be recorded. We record pulse oximetry, so we record the level of oxygen that we have. We record respiratory rate here with the elastic bands. We also record different things. We usually even record from the heart in terms of EKG. We can record electrocardiography. So there are different things that are being recorded while the kind of subjects are in the sleep lab. And as you can imagine, most of the sleep labs are something like a hotel room. So you have a kind of a bed, but there are lots of monitoring stuff that are going on, and you are being hooked into different devices, and people are looking at you when you are asleep. So that is the sort of a weird experience of putting people in a sleep, and you can imagine it's not an easy process. And even there are some specific regulations. It depends on the institution, but for example, there are institutions that if you want to run a sleep lab, you need to have same gender people from the assessment team. So you cannot, let's say, put a female subject in the sleep lab while you have your research assistants who are male. So there are some kind of technical challenges for running a sleep lab, and it's quite a complex process to be able. And if you are in US, if you want to do it in a sleep lab for something like a clinical sleep lab, and sleep one night in one of the sleep lab to just assess you for the sleep, they would charge you something close to something like $1,000 for a few hours in a sleep lab, which is not trivial. As I told you, there are different recordings. There could be recordings from eyes, left eye, right eye. There could be recording regarding electromyography from the muscles, and it could be EEG as well in terms of recording the major signal. We are probably not recording the entire space, so most of the time we are not really much interested to the, let's say, connections in the different electrodes that we have or different places in the brain. It's just about the general, let's say, signal in the brain. So it's not about localization of these signals. So we just record most of the time just 2, 3, 4 electrodes for the EEG. So it is not a full EEG cap. And then we call this process polysomno, it means sleep. So polysomnography. So we are recording multiple electrodes during their sleep, and we record as what we call polysomnography. And we can see, for example, if there is a decrease in the level of oxygenation, and then there is a specific, let's say, halt in the process of breathing, so what we call sleep apnea, which is pretty much frequent, and it has probably the worst effect in terms of what we call insomnia. So it just make challenges in terms of lack of sleep and being the lack of the quality of sleep because of these episodes of stopping breathing. And sleep apnea could be because of what we call obstructive sleep apnea because there is an obstruction in the upper respiratory tract, or there could be what we call central, which is a problem in CNS. So the system that is working in CNS is not working properly to continue having stimulus for having breathing, and that is probably a more complex problem to address. But it's quite interesting that those who have a sleep apnea, they are in a really high risk for diabetes. So sleep apnea is highly correlated with what we call diabetes and lots of other problems. And there is an interesting interaction in terms of things like obesity are causing sleep apnea. Meanwhile, sleep apnea could cause obesity as well. So they have a really interesting vicious cycle interaction together. But what we finally make from all these recordings is something that sometimes we just call as hypnogram. Which is giving us a sense about different stages of sleep. And the question is how we say that, okay, now this subject is in the REM or in the fourth non-REM kind of stage. And there are even different categorizations. So there are labs that are recording things in N1, N2, N3, and there are labs that are kind of considering N4 as well. So it depends on the classification and the kind of different labs. People are using different classification system. But the question is how different timing during the sleep period would be classified based on all the recording that we are doing as to what we call two major stages of sleep. One is rapid eye movement sleep and the other is non-rapid eye movement sleep, and how we are differentiating them together. And I will discuss about some of those aspects today in terms of how this system is working. So that is the end of the part 2.